How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Yay! Welcome to the Deliberate Millionaire podcast with Rosemary Nonny Knight. This is the place where ambitious spiritual people learn how to manifest and keep the money, the resources they need to live luxuriously in their purpose. Enjoy the podcast. I'll speak to you again afterwards. Let's read the daily download for the one we're looking at today. Grace, unmerited favor is available to you. You are not subject to painful cycles of punishment and struggle when you realize this. The moment you decide to take yourself out of the life where you only get what you have killed yourself for, you will see that there is always grace for you to rely on. You do not have to follow through on a punishment path when you see this. Grace is always available. To your eyes, it may seem unfair, and you may have judged those who live in grace, but how does it serve you to remain in the thought that you must earn everything and prove yourself worthy of everything? Why not choose to avail yourself of grace? You do not have to pay the price for every mistake. Grace is available. The moment you change your mind is the moment everything changes. Okay, so grace is available, so why are you still punishing yourself? I remember having a client who felt that a mistake had been made, that she'd done something that she considered to be really bad, and she felt that the divine was punishing her for this, and that the divine took her business away as a result of her making this mistake. And I had to correct her with this thinking, because there is grace. There is grace. The divine has no need for perfection from you. The divine even starts this divine download by saying, grace, unmerited favor is available to you. And it's not about when you've earned it. It's not about when you've fixed everything. It's not about you being perfect and proving yourself. It's available now. Grace is available now. Grace, this natural grace exists that enables you to be supported in life. It is a law of life. The divine continues by saying, you are not subject to painful cycles of punishment and struggle when you realize this. But a lot of people, unfortunately, do tend to live in a cycle of struggle. They get a small win, but then they might make some kind of a mistake. And so then they punish themselves, or they expect to receive punishment, which they then get, and then they're back to struggle again. And then it's back to a small win maybe, and then they're punished because they make a mistake of some sort, or something happens that they feel, not good enough, and then they punish themselves, though they don't realize they're punishing themselves. They think it's happening to them. They think it's because of this mistake. They think everybody thinks in terms of karma or cause and effect, or I do this and so then I get that. I do this and then I get that. Now, from a very spiritual perspective, time doesn't really exist in the way that we perceive it. And I know that might sound like gibberish to you, because for us, everything happens sequentially. Everything happens sequentially. This happens, then that happens, then that happens. There are consequences of something you did before, and blah, blah, blah. And so that leaves, in some ways, no room for grace. Though some spiritual people, some religious people would say, oh, there is grace, but they don't really believe that there's grace. Or I suppose, depending on what religion you come from, there's a way of paying the price for what mistake you've made. There's something, a way to hopefully wipe you clean, and then you're fine to carry on. What if everything is happening in the very, very wide open space now moment? So then it isn't this thing happens and then that thing happens. It's all happening. But I think a lot of spiritual people have this, you kind of have this idea that really time is a construct that we have created and we live into. And so it feels real to us, I know, but I'm saying there's grace. I'm saying because there's a law of grace. And if you believe that you have to pay for every single mistake you make, yeah, life is going to feel quite struggling. And when it comes to mastering the manifestation of whatever it is that you desire in life, or even getting guidance from the divine, if there's a part of you that feels like you deserve to be punished, you will keep doing things that generate a punishment in your life, which will always bring you back to that place of struggle. And you just tell yourself that's just the way life is, that's just the way life works, but it's not. It's what you have trained yourself to believe is the way life is. And yes, it started because you were taught this, but at some point you became an adult and you didn't question some of these ideas that you've taken on board. And so it gets in the way of you mastering money manifestation. It gets in the way of you receiving guidance from the divine, because even if the divine is trying to say something nice to you, you don't accept it because you feel you haven't paid enough of a price to have something nice happen to you. You feel like you have to pay for everything. You have to earn everything. You have to pay for every mistake. You have to prove that you're worthy. You can't just receive, right? And so you unconsciously have created a life where nothing comes to you easily. Everything feels like you have to really put a lot of effort in order to receive it. And success that you really want, the success you really want, is always just a little bit out of reach. So as I said, you can have wins and people could look at your life and say to you that your life is fine, but for you, it doesn't feel right because you're not quite where you would like to be, and you will never allow yourself to be there because inevitably you'll make some kind of a mistake. And if you do not allow for grace, you will continually find a way to punish yourself or to struggle, telling yourself also that ease is not for you. You become the judge, the jury, the prison officer in your own life, constantly checking yourself, constantly measuring yourself against everybody else and finding faults in yourself. And then from that place, deciding what you deserve. It's not always conscious that you're doing this. You are very biased, okay? You're far more likely to see the things that you've done wrong, to see what you didn't do enough of, to see where you fell short. And even when you do well, there's a part of you that is always downgrading what you've done. I remember when I won the Porsche Boxster for being Businesswoman of the Year, and I was telling people the story of it in my mastermind group, and I was just like, oh, well, I don't think I won because of anything I did. I think it was just because I sang a song or something. And I remember my coach saying, oh, yes, of course. Let's forget the whole year of working your ass off. But, oh, it was just because you sang the song, of course. I did that stuff where I was just never enough. I judged myself as never enough. And some of y'all live in a space of feeling all the time that you're never enough, that you haven't done enough, that you always have to pay some price, and there's always more for you to do, and you can never quite reach the mark. And this is why people start to burn out, because you're reaching for a standard that you can never get to, because you never allow yourself to get to it, because you're continually thinking that you're never good enough. And I remember watching a program, it was Judging Amy. I used to love that program. One of the episodes was where a young boy, he had accidentally killed his sister because he'd found his parents' gun and started playing with it. And then it was loaded and he shot his sister, which is terrible, I know. But this is the thing, they took him to court and everything, and his parents are trying to defend him, or people are trying to defend him, or social worker was trying to defend him, something. But he refused to be defended. He refused completely to be defended. He didn't want to, he wanted to be punished. He wanted to be sent to jail. He wanted to stay in jail and didn't want anybody to try to help him at all. And so the social worker was asking, why are you acting in this way? Why will you not allow people to help you? And he was just like, I don't deserve to be helped. I killed my sister, for goodness sake. I don't deserve to be helped. I deserve to die. I need someone to kill me, in fact, and blah, blah, blah. And on it went. And okay, in this case, it can feel like we can understand why he might have felt this way. And then there might be some empathy towards the fact that he was so young and it was a mistake and blah, blah, blah. But of course, it still did result in someone's death. So I get it. And then you start to see our innate human need to punish people, whether it's ourselves or somebody else. And so even in this case, there might be a part of you still thinking, yeah, well, he killed his sister, so he does deserve to blah, blah, blah. And I get it, okay, but we're not talking about you killing anybody. You probably judge yourself so harshly, even though you haven't killed anybody. You haven't done anything. And some of y'all, just for being a parent, you feel guilty. You haven't done enough. And just for being alive, you haven't done enough. And that thinking is as bad to you as this boy having killed his sister and wanting to put himself in jail and stay in jail forever. You do that to yourself. You want to put yourself in jail and stay in jail forever because to you, you haven't done enough. And even for all of y'all that are listening to me and potentially telling yourself that you are not that person, and you do not ever want to punish yourself and you love yourself and this and that and the other, I would ask you, if there's a struggle in your life, it's not the only reason why people struggle, but take a look. Is it likely that there's a part of you that believes that this is all you deserve because of some weird reason that may not even seem obvious to you? This is why when I ask people to come and get divine guidance, because sometimes you don't even realize that you are doing the stuff to yourself. Everybody, okay, if you've done any kind of personal growth or self-development or whatever, or spiritual growth, everybody knows kinda that they are usually the biggest obstacle in their own way. But not everybody knows exactly how they are the obstacle in their own way. So whenever I speak to some people, when I'm speaking to prospects who potentially want to work with me and blah, blah, and I ask what they think could be getting in their way, and they're like, well, I think it's me. But it's like, okay, yes, everybody says that, but what does that actually mean? Most people do not know. This is where you do need guidance. So you come into group and put your stuff in group, or come to the Freedom event, or book a private session with me, because sometimes you just don't know what you're actually doing to get in your own way. You know that it's probably you, unless you're somebody who feels victimized by life. You generally, if you're not somebody who feels victimized by life, then you will know that something you're doing is getting in the way, but you don't know what you're doing. You don't know why you're doing it. And for a lot of y'all, it is because you are punishing yourself and you don't realize you're punishing yourself. You don't feel you've paid enough, and so you're staying trapped in this prison of your own making. And because in some ways, grace does feel unfair. And that's why for a lot of people, you resist it, because there's that innate human quality, as I said, that feels that if something happens, it should be punishment or a reward for it. So if something happens, there's a consequence of punishment or reward, and that's the way it should be. And that's if you're religious, you decide that's the way the divine must also see things, because justice, the divine is just. And to you, justice means that for every single mistake or error made, then the punishment must match the crime. But the divine is saying there's grace. There's grace. Grace. Unmerited favor. Grace. And so yes, to your eyes, it may seem unfair. You see other people receiving easily. You see them moving forward quickly. You see them not paying for every mistake. So you see people who you would judge as bad, who are prospering. Why? Because they believe, or they don't consciously, that some of them don't consciously talk about these spiritual principles, but they fully believe in themselves, regardless of what they've done, and they've decided they're going to prosper, and that's it. But you feel it's unfair, and so you can't necessarily do anything to people out there, but you keep punishing yourself, because struggle starts to feel righteous. It starts to feel deserved. It even starts to feel safe. I was saying that to somebody today, that sometimes human nature will rather choose the pain they know rather than going for something different. And I'll keep telling the sad story from the past because it's comfortable, it's safe. Rather than let that go, let's create a new story. It keeps people stuck. It keeps you stuck. Grace is a law. It's not a reward. It's always available. It's a law. It's not a reward system at all. It is literally like gravity. It is a law. It is a law. It is a law. It's available the moment you allow it. It's available the moment you allow it. The moment you change your mind about whether you deserve punishment or not is the moment everything starts to change for you. Again, it always comes down to a decision. Decision to change, to notice where you may be punishing yourself for crimes that may not even really truly exist. And even if you did do something wrong at some point, sure, at what point do you think you would have paid enough? It's like that client I mentioned at the beginning. She was still in struggle and still felt that that it had been the divine punishing her. And I'm just like, it's not though. It's not. It's you telling yourself that the divine is punishing you and then doing things unconsciously that cause you to struggle. And then you look at that and say, oh, it's because the divine doesn't want me to prosper yet. So it's punishing me. And when I'm sorry. And you keep asking the divine for forgiveness, hoping that you'll finally get to the point where you have done enough forgiveness. But actually, you're the one that needs to let yourself go. You are the one that needs to set yourself free, because you're unconsciously ignoring opportunities, missing chances that are right there in front of your eyes, sabotaging your own progress. You are overcomplicating things and creating unnecessary struggle. Again, it is not a conscious thing, but you are doing it to yourself because inside of you, you still feel you need to pay some price for something. You're making life harder than it needs to be. Again, if you are not sure how you're doing this, then get support. Come into the group, come into the Deliberate Millionaire Gathering, get support. Come to the Freedom event, get support. Book a private session with me, get support. Do something to move yourself forward. How much more suffering do you need to go through before you finally realize, I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm meant for more than this. Honey, you're not required to suffer your way through life. You are not required to pay for every single mistake. You are not required to prove your worth. You're not even required to get things perfect. You are allowed to prosper even now. Even now, regardless of how perfect or imperfect you are. It is up to you to avail yourself of grace or stay in punishment. Why would you do that though? Why would you do that though? Set yourself free. Grace is available. Grace is available. Grace is available. So set yourself free. Whatever happened in the past is done. Be done with it. Be done with it yourself. Set yourself free. And to take the learning, the empowerment to a whole different level, get a copy of the Prosperity Book. It is how ambitious spiritual people manifest money, resources to live luxuriously in their purpose. The link will be around this video, this audio. If you would rather do something more private with me, then also the link will be around here on how to book the Money Manifestation Mastery and Strategic Divine Guidance private consultation, where we'll figure out what is the best next step for you. The link will be around here. Much amazing love. Go forth and prosper.